Open the Wednesday, March 25th meeting of the Senate at 6:35 p.m. First up on our agenda is public comment. At this time, are there any members of the public who would like to speak? Seeing none, I will turn it over to our guest presenter today. We are very fortunate to be joined by Executive Director of Dining Services, Mike White. Mike, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, everybody. So Kyle asked me to come talk about things we're going to work on, things we've been working on. A little background. Some of you have met me before. I've been on this campus since 1992. I did my undergrad here. I actually started working for Dining Services in '94 as a student worker. So kind of seen it all, seen different variations of meal plans, seen us do good things and see us mess things up, which we still do quite a bit. And so if I were to capture it last year, when I was here, we were talking about opening up the coop, and we were talking about Hartford. Sort of where we are at this point, I would say the coop has been incredibly successful. We do about 600 pounds of chicken out of that space a day. So any of you animal lovers, I'm sorry, we've killed a lot of chickens. But it's, I mean, if you've seen the line, it kind of speaks for itself in terms of its popularity. I don't think we've ever put something together so, in such a simple way. Like chicken tenders, fries. Obviously with the chicken, we were very careful. We wanted it to be halal. We wanted it to be gluten-free, so it hit on a bunch of different points. But it's just been ridiculous. It's been absolutely amazing. It's one of the few things we've ever opened and never really been criticized for. I know that there were questions about vegan and vegetarian choices, and my attitude with some of that is there are vegan and vegetarian choices at the other end of the building, and we're not going to try to open everything and be everything to every diet in every location. I know that's frustrating, but it's also about balancing what we have space for and bandwidth for in those spaces. So the coop's been doing really well. Hartford, kind of like when we opened Avery Point years ago, it's taking time. We opened late. So instead of being ready for when school started, we were about a month behind. We did a bunch of credits for people that had bought meal plans, gave them a 30-day money back on all that, so no one was negatively impacted. But we haven't sold a lot of meal plans there. It's doing okay during the day, especially at lunch. It's not doing that well on Fridays and not doing that well on Saturdays. And a lot of that just has to do with the foot traffic and the popularity of what's offered in that building at those hours. Saturday was important to me because it's a high graduate class day in Hartford, and I want to just make sure that we still have that service. So there will be times where we make a decision to be a service more than we decide to be a business. As Pratt Street continues to evolve and those apartments get filled, we'll try to work with the building on what the hours are going to look like. I'm not sure if the Hartford campus intends to open on Sundays. Right now they've said no. So at some point, if they decide to open the building on a Sunday, then we'll provide a service on a Sunday. So that's kind of evolving where that is. One of the biggest projects I'm working on, which isn't something any of you will see in your time here, is we're trying to build a new commissary, which includes our bakery. To give you an idea, the existing building, which sits behind Whitney Dining Hall, was built in 1952 when we had 2,500 kids on the meal plan. In 2026, we have over 13,000 kids on the meal plan trying to operate with the same 12,000 square feet, producing all the desserts, all the sandwiches, all the parfaits, all of our backup storage for Husky Harvest, all of our deliveries come out of there. We've really outgrown the space. We also, as you know, like I said, we're in Hartford, we're also at Avery Point, we're at the law school, we're trying to provide service to those campuses. That facility hasn't kept up with what our demand is today. You look around and you see all the different dining halls that have had upgrades and the ones that are new, and yet we haven't really supported our own back-end service model to support those locations. So at some point, you may see on the Board of Trustee agenda that we've gotten to the point where we have a design, and now we're going through costing, whether they'll actually allow us to do this. It'll be a pretty expensive project. It's about a 30,000 square foot building we're trying to move into. So we'll see how that goes. If that's all successful, That'll be a fall of 2028 window for us. So that's that, working on that. Right now, Rob Landolfi and the team of executive chefs are working on recipe development for the fall semester. So if there's folks here, or you hear from students, and there's things they're looking for, they have suggestions, or there's recipes you'd like us to try, now is the time. You can email us those, you can send them on our question and comment page, you can email Rob directly for all I care. I think he'd love it if you got 100 emails from him. I think it'd be great, actually, if you all buried him with recipes. That team of executive chefs, there's an executive chef in every dining facility, including retail. And so what they do is they get together, they look at trends, they talk to students in their various locations. Rob has his FYE class, we try to get out and talk to people, and that's how we sort of gather information. We will try to do about a 30% menu change on all menus across the whole campus for the fall semester, and that's the target we kind of shoot for. So that'll all be happening in the next few weeks. So again, if you have recipe ideas, sort of now's the time. I did write some stuff down, Kyle, because you said come and talk to us. So I said, let me think about the things I got to talk to you about. Today was the pop-up food pantry. Not sure if you saw, we had over 12,000 pounds of donated product. It was amazing. We wanted to open at 11, and the line was so long at like 10:05 that we just opened, which was great. So some of you, I think I already talked to you, said you went to that today, so that was really cool. I think it's just one of those things that we're very fortunate that the folks that have been providing product to the Husky Harvest are also willing to provide product for a standalone event like that. Midwest, which I can never give enough credit to, which is a small mom and pop program that was started in Manchester, Connecticut, has just been amazing to us here at UConn. Typically, we get close to 25,000 pounds of product from on a monthly basis, and they were pretty much the sole vendor for today. So that went really well. Spring Fling is coming up on April 22nd. Andy has been working with Rob on all of the entire vegan menu for that. Is that what? That will not happen. So I just give Andy a hard time because it's got to be dairy free and vegan every time I talk to him. But they've been working on that menu. That's a cool event. It's a zero waste event. We will roll out some old plates that we've had in storage for years. And you know, one year, a long time ago, we worked with a lot of different vendors and brought in products from all over the place. Panera donated bread for that day. We basically went to farms and got stuff that they would normally just turn into the soil and use that for those events. So we've tried to really be creative with that event over the last few years. It's in conjunction with the environmental policy or sustainability. I don't know what you guys are called now. Yeah. What is it? Speak. Great acronym. So we work with them closely on those things. There's a rain date for it. That is a Flex Pass event, or folks can actually pay with a credit card. So that's all happening. Food truck just went back on the street, all new menu, and we decided that it's not going to be a menu of burgers and fries for months on end. We're going with basically every 2 weeks there's a whole different menu. I felt like our variety on the truck was just stagnant, and like I love Lizzie's. She's been here forever, and you look at the menu board every single day, and I go, like, we have a truck that's twice the size, and we have one menu item, and she's got half the space, and she's got 50 menu items. Like, how can we not figure this out? We actually had the chef that was on there leave us, so when we put the schedule back up, we posted it as a flex schedule. So with the union that we work with, I am now able to give them a different schedule with a 1 week notification telling them a week out, this is what your schedule is going to be. So we can chase events, we can be here at night. We're working with athletics to try to be at certain baseball games. I want to be able to take that thing on the road if we possibly can. So we're starting with a quesadilla menu, and there's just a whole variety. There's this meatball sub thing we did. So some of the testing was just phenomenal. So I'm expecting that that will be a little more popular, especially for the folks that come out of the library every day, and that's where they want to go for lunch. Now they don't have to worry that it's the same thing every single day. So that just hit the road. They talked about recipe development, they talked about the commissary, and last year I was asked about the menu labeling system and QR codes. So I thought I would talk about that a little bit. A year ago, I sat here and said my goal was to go out and research and put on the street a bid for a new food menu management system. The system is what we use behind the scenes to order, predict, track recipes, all those different things. It is actually down to a short list of finalists, which if all goes well, we will do an implementation this summer. So if this all plays out well, my hope is that we'll be in a different world in terms of the technology. It's more cloud-based, and we'll have more flexibility in what we can actually put on the menu label. I forget what I was asked if I could put on there. Was it to list that it contains meat?
Allergy information.
We have allergy information, but what did you want on the label?
Oh, well, allergies, yes.
Yeah.
More specifically, what type of meat it
That's what I
was.
was saying. Yeah. I don't know if it was me. Year goes by and I still remember it was me. So that's one of those things that's still in the back of my mind to see how we can incorporate that into the new system. So I haven't forgotten, but that's kind of where we're headed. I like to do this just to entertain myself. How many people in here have a meal plan, either a community plan or an actual meal plan? Wow, way better than last year. Must have been my ability to sway people. Have you told them about the community plan change? Do you want, oh, you're going to discuss it later? So I can't be part of that discussion? I'll sweat a little bit. When did you write that to me? Last Wednesday? So last Wednesday, I got the legislation, and so I made one phone call, and we decided to test whether we could take an individual community meal. So I buy a community meal plan, right? I buy 25 meals. Could I use that like a flex pass? I think the legislation said convert, so you could call me up and say, hey, I've got 25 community meals on my account. Can you make 5 of them flex passes? Couldn't do it that way. What I could do is I could make it so that the form of tender, the form of payment at the register, it would know that it could take a community meal to basically pay for a flex meal. So we tested it, it worked, and it's been in place since last week. So the legislation was successful. I'm going to make one plea for the incoming board. I think I made this last year and it didn't work. Here's my one request. There will probably be legislation that you're interested in that may affect dining at some point. And I don't want to disrupt your process. And I know there's a lot of senators with a lot of constituents. I would love to be a part of the legislation because if ultimately we're the ones that are going to implement it, I want to be able to walk you through how we would implement it. The example in this case, and Kyle helped me with this. So I had asked after the legislation was done, and I set it up as a form of tender instead of a conversion, if he could amend the legislation. And the answer was no, because it was already voted on, it was already put in place. Now you've put together a statement that basically says Mike's awesome and fixed it and was able to pull this off, which I really appreciate. I think what I'd like to have done is if we had walked through it, tested it, then you did the legislation, it would have matched, to prove that we matched it exactly. I'm not saying that means I'm going to support every legislative action that comes out of this body. I've seen some real good ones over the years that are just impossible to do. I think for the most part, we try really hard to figure out whether we can do it. All I'm asking is that if it's going to involve dining, and you want to see if it's feasible, and you want help with the legislation, don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'm absolutely willing to talk through it, figure out if we need to change the wording, and if we can actually execute it. That's all. That's my plea. That's all I got. What do you want to know? You ready? No, single hand up.
Someone's gonna go.
They don't have to. Who's going to win today, the Yankees or the Giants?
Yankees.
That hat looks like you just polished it off just for today. The Yankees are going today. I've got Freed on my fantasy throwing today, so go for it. I already got it. Oh, you need the mic.
We're very procedural.
ahead.
Hat was in the closet because the Yankees don't have any real fans.
There we go.
He's also a Lakers and a Cowboys fan.
That is not true. You know I'm a Denver fan.
I was with you. I was the Cowboys for a minute.
Go Red Sox.
Have fun not making the playoffs.
Oh, jeez. We started. It doesn't take much to wind you guys up.
How did your last playoff run end, out of curiosity?
With a World Series win.
Really? What, like,
Smith has a real question.
Yeah, let's go Smith. Oh, look who's on time. Favorite chef on wheels.
Smith for the minutes. My question is about I don't know what's going on, but there's an app called Swipe.
Yes.
Can you talk about
Yeah, so
is that working with you?
absolutely, absolutely, I can talk about that. So this is not the first student that's come to me with an idea surrounding how can we help with something. So I've been meeting with a student for probably 3 months, off and on. Actually, we're meeting tomorrow again as a follow-up. And the first, so he's in the IDEA grant piece where you can get some funding. There was a kid years ago named Luke Dang that we worked with that did an app to help us track food waste. So if there's a space that I think can benefit us and can benefit the student, I'm all about trying to figure out whether we would, I don't want to say co-sponsor, or in this world, my mind was we were going to help him pilot. I would love it if this thing works, the algorithm that he's got planned. So far it's doing okay. He's essentially scraping data off the website. Part of that reason he has to do it that way goes back to the same nightmare I had with our food menu management system. It's so archaic and so old, and a lot of what's behind it is pure script that you can't just scrape the data out of it. So when he came to me, the first thing I was concerned about was eating disorders. And so, having been in this industry, especially in higher ed, as long as I have, I'm very confident in our abilities to help students who have an allergy or need a modified diet. I will tell you that, and any director in this country would lie to you if they were confident they could help every student with an eating disorder. It is the most challenging realm for anyone that sits in my seat to navigate. Many times in the eating disorder world, we're actually a contributing problem to the student's mental health and their ability to navigate what's going on. Think about walking into a facility that's buffet style. Your doctor's prescribed a very strict plan of action for you, and I'm presenting you with unlimited options, overwhelming you. Then there's the social component of I'm not ready to eat in front of 300 people. So eating disorders are incredibly challenging. So my first concern with this app was that when you start telling people what's good for them and what's bad for them, and you either want to color code it or you want to label it on a metric score, any food for a student with an eating disorder is a positive. And so scoring something that society has said isn't necessarily good for you, or the current administration in Washington has said isn't good for you, this is how you should eat now, is much different for a student with an eating disorder. So I've been very careful in working with the student to make sure that we weren't going to isolate anybody in any negative way. My hope for him is that this app will be successful. Now, he only has an Apple version because Apple's the easiest side to make these on. There is no Android version yet. So that's another hurdle. But my hope is that he can turn this into a potential business model, and it is something other institutions would be interested in. And I would be proud to say that we helped build it. And so I'm comfortable right now being a co-sponsor of it. My involvement's pretty minimal. Just really trying to put guardrails in and try to guide him based on my experience. Our dietitian's been involved to try to help with some of that. But Sean's a freshman. It's fascinating to me. This is just an idea that he had. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, his download history has had peaks. and I thought it was done, and then we ran another ad campaign, and he had like another 700, and the Daily Campus ran a story, and he bumped again. So I think in his world, he'd love to get thousands on there. But I think for somebody that literally just started this 3 months ago, and that we're willing to say, yeah, we're gonna co-sponsor this for now. And the only agreement I have with them is that we're still in pilot. Now, it may be that we walk away from this, and I'm not willing to support it in the fall if he's not willing to stick and modify the algorithm in such a way that it doesn't negatively impact certain students. I'm okay with it. But I may walk away from it. I mean, he knows that. So yeah, it's a great question, actually. It's a pretty easy app to use. Have you downloaded it yet? Not being afraid of it. Like, it's what? Check it out. You'll appreciate it. It's the easiest meeting I've ever been to in my life. Are you kidding me?
Other questions?
Yeah, Gabby. I earned this one.
You? No, I'm kidding.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I stopped by and you were chatting with your parents and Angela the night of your
I heard. Anyways, I want to see if there were any updates on the list that I had shared with you and Chef Rob, this is a while ago now, of trying to improve accessibility in all the dining halls.
So we fixed, some things were done. And then there's obviously a massive hurdle with Whitney. Whitney I have no answer for. And I think many folks here at the university will just kind of go down this road that it's this historical thing. So I don't have an answer for Whitney. CT Hall, we did a door install, right? You've seen that one. South, we've checked and fixed. Putnam is now operational. I'm going off the top of my head now. What else? Do you have that thing in front of you? I'll go dig it up. I felt like I got to most of it. I'm not trying to shortchange it. I'll have to look at some of it. I did send a whole bunch of it over to facilities. I heard you met James Albuquerque.
I know the name.
There was a shoveling incident, I believe, with.
Yes, yep.
So it's funny, James and I were chatting because your meal was coming up, and he was familiar with you because of that list. I'm gonna kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent here because Gabby's worked for us for a while now. Gabby has a unique relationship with Robin Dolphy, and I think that what I've always wanted for students is for every single student to feel like every single student. And I know that you haven't always had that experience, but I will say one thing I've always admired, and everyone in this room should, is that your will, determination, and what you're advocating for can't end when you graduate. And so no matter who is a senator, when you talk about representing your constituents, remember that all your constituents look different. They have different challenges that they come here with. I think your persistence is something that I wish every student had. Of course, I wish when they did that huge UConn Today story, you mentioned dining services, but that's okay.
It's not my fault, just for our.
I think that, I'll take a look at that list. I personally am willing to continue to try to go down that list and work with facilities on some of it. It's funny, we talk about whether it's an issue of access to the facility. And I don't mean access I mean literally getting in the door access. Today I went to North Campus, and I haven't been that disappointed in something we've put out in quite some time. I come here, I come to these meetings, I go to board meetings, I talk about what an amazing program we have. And then I walk in North today. Now granted, we've had a lot of absences and the manager's been sick and I've got a couple of young people running shifts, but I walk in, the student employee is literally eating an apple on his iPhone, never even looks up. The part-time retirees that I have hired, who are all sweet and they love to welcome every student, are having a full lunch. at the check-in station. The floor's got stuff on it, the tables are dirty, the students that are supposed to be wiping down the tables are walking back and forth, talking to the Valentines, the managers in the back. From a customer perspective, I was embarrassed. Did the food taste good? Yeah, the food was fine, the food tasted okay. Did it present well? No. I mean, there's nobody that should be stacking salmon 3 high. The presentation was bad. So, when I walk around every day, I want you to understand, every day I walk around, I go to one of our facilities for lunch, I criticize them. They hate it. They think that's all I do. But what I want is the customer experience to be what I expect it to be, what I would want. And it doesn't matter to me whether you're confined to a chair, right? Powering through your day. I want you to have access, a clean environment. And when we don't do that, I shouldn't get the right to stand up here and brag about what a cool department we have. And I think all too often, you think about these commercials UConn runs. So who's watched basketball games? You see those amazing commercials, right? Student life, everybody jumping around in a basketball game, the coolest labs that we have, all these awesome spaces that we offer to students. And then you get assigned North Campus to live. And you're like, that shit wasn't on the commercial, right? You promised me this, and you gave me that. And having been here, I think, 30 some odd years, like, that stuff drives me crazy that we do that. Middlesex doesn't look any different than it did when I lived there. I think I told you all this. The room's probably smaller because it's got 2 inches of paint since 1992 on the inside walls. That's what you get. So when you all demand things like that, what you talked about at the BOT was amazing. It wasn't just you. What I thought was amazing, at the Board of Trustee meeting, there's a group of students that came together that decided they wanted to talk about the cultural center for students with needs. When I sat there and you look at the group of students, just like I look at all, you all look different. You all have different perspectives. You all have different desires. You all have different backgrounds. And that's what makes the student body so amazing. And so I don't take lightly anything that you bring up. Don't be afraid to push me, right? So don't be afraid to push me if you're not getting things that you all feel you deserve. That was a long answer, I'll get back to your list. I promise.
Hi, Dennis for the minutes. I have a question. So I know you mentioned sending emails out to Rob if you have menu suggestions. Is that
Lots of
something
emails.
more like smaller, or is that something like wanting to be advertised to just general?
So we've done surveys. There's an article in the Daily Canvas a couple of days ago, like, why don't you do a survey? We do them like every 2 or 3 years. They're just loaded with stuff. I love pick and answer. I hate fill in the block. Because look, there's 13,000 kids in the middle, but not every single kid's nice. I'm not asking you to treat me with mittens, but I don't need you to tell me, all the reasons why I suck at what I did, right? So I think what I'm looking for is, if you're in passing, you're in conversation, students are coming to you, they're complaining, like, you're in line at the dining hall, like, oh my God, it's the same thing again 3 weeks later. Well, that's how the rotations work, but fine. But hey, did you know you can email dining and give them recipe suggestions, and they'll test it, they'll consider it. Like, that's what I would say to you. If you want to put something simple together on a social media page and say, hey, dining's looking for recipe suggestions, and then use our suggestion page, great. I'm fine with that. But the first really stupid suggestion I get about making something with cow manure, you're getting email back and forth too, just so you can see something. We're gonna get some doozies, I know we will, but I'm fine with that. It's go to North Campus, read the comment cards on the board. You get some funny ones, and you get some where you're like, I don't have the time to answer that, and I certainly can't answer it the way I want to answer it, because that'll end up somewhere else. So, yeah, I think if you want to put something together and say, hey, Donnie's looking for ideas for recipes, and then link it to that section on our comment section, and then Becky will get all those and we can send them right over to Rob. That's fine. If you really want, put Rob's face up with a QR code, and that'll make me super happy.
My name's Sana Patel. I feel like I can speak for everyone who's like vegan and vegetarian. Sorry to keep going back to this, but is there a way that we could have veggie, vegan, or meat on the labels of the food? Because there's so many times where I'm like asking my friends.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. So, under the current system, we're limited to a certain number of characters. That's why we're very hopeful that with the new system, we'll be able to expand either under wherever, under either the name, or under the QR code, or under the description, that we'll be able to expand those. So the problem we've had is we only have a set number of slots. And if an item contains 6 out of the 12 allergies, I've just lost 6 slots. I only get like 8, so I'm losing space. So we're headed down that road.
So then, what about like a symbol? Because I know like there's a universal veggie, like vegetarian symbol. Like, would you guys be able to add that?
We have, everything is labeled. If it's vegan, it's on there. It'll be labeled vegan if it's on there. So if you go to the, we have our symbols thing on the webpage, it'll show you what the, and even if you went through, I don't know which way you're looking up menus.
On my Yukon.
Yeah, okay, so on there, if you filter down, it'll show you which ones are vegan. And then we have I forget, it's like a V with an outline on it for vegan, I think, or VGN. Yeah, so that'll label if it's actually vegan. I'm gonna rename them all Andy.
Yes.
Right on the bottom of my shoe. So it's like Toy Story.
My name is Kira Connor. I think we actually spoke last spring about my legislation for the expansion of flex passes, but the one question I had just from like talking to students here was, I didn't know if there was a way to like track capacity in the dining halls. I know with like the rec, they have the things that you walk through, but I'm assuming with like the dining halls, that's gonna be harder like traffic. And I know that's something that you guys are like thinking of at all. I'm not really sure like how that would be done, because I know like, with the ID scan that probably would.
So we've looked at different technologies. Actually, we've looked at eye, we've looked at palm. We are currently, same problem. One card office and my office are working on new POS systems. It'll still be a tap. When we looked at the retinal scanners, the price was just outrageous for the number of them that I would need. When we looked at the palm scanners, they weren't quite as expensive. At the time I looked at it, it was a while ago, the technology wasn't as refined. I just remember the presentation was like they used more finger points than the FBI does in determining a crime, which I thought was crazy. We just haven't looked at a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine that's part of like the technology and everything.
It's just super, everything's so damn expensive.
Yeah.
Like for us to do, so all the cash registers in retail right now are at their expiration. And if you go to the dining hall, I mean, that's not really any formal set. It's an iPad with a tap device that we sort of worked on with UConn IT. For us to do what we really want to do, so one of my big problems in the dining hall is credit cards. So those credit card machines we have there actually only function off of cellular. So inside of some of these buildings are constantly like starting off. So I really want a system that's all tied in, like it is in retail, where you can just tap it or swipe it and it knows it's a credit card. So we're probably close to $300,000 in equipment to do everything we need to do, which includes a portable machine so I can do bars and weddings at every point when the catering department heads off. It's the loss, it's all the different places. So that's another huge expense that we're working on right now. Stephanie, who's the director of the One Card office, and my team are down to 1 or 2 vendors, so that's another thing. When you all come back next fall, we're gonna have all new registers. It should be faster. One of the problems with the current system is there's a 6-second delay, which in the beginning of the year is a nightmare, right? So you've got this long line and it's like, all right, wait, 6 seconds, hold on. Andy, there you did 4, Andy, you screwed it up again. Stay there for 6 seconds, right? So we have to just keep doing that. I'm hopeful the new system is faster. One thing I am worried about with the new system is going to be the photo component. I'm not sure if that's even available in the phase 1 of the project. And then the other battle is preferred name. Right? There's a lot of students that have the preferred name, and that's on the back of our IDs. Right? And so I got a lot of retirees, and some 80-year-olds. And this is going to sound like total age discrimination, but like they want to be like, what's your first name? Ella. They want to be like, your name pops up, Ella, have a great day. And you're like, Mike, I don't go by that. And they don't know what to do. They're simply just trying to be polite. And because that thing pops the name on the front of the card, it doesn't pop the preferred name, we've upset something. So there's just a lot of.
Is there a way like student admin that people can change the preferred name so on the system it would come up? I feel like that
No, that not under the current one card technology. So the 3 big changes: POS system, gold, Husky Gold, which you don't see. That's where your meal plan is actually loaded. And then it goes on, like iAccess, I would add your meal plan there, it goes directly onto your 1 card, that's all held in gold. I go in, I add points there for you. If you had a bad experience, I might give you some gratis points. That's literally going to be your face. Some of you send your prom pictures from high school, that's still your face. And then your legal name. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. You know, listen, 25 years ago, nobody thought of this stuff when they put these programs in. Like, it's a shame that we can't adapt correctly. And we've had problems. And downstairs, we've had issues at the food court, we've had issues at Putnam with one particular gentleman who's been, you know, I love him, he's a great guy, served our country, did amazing things, but he's not doing well when it comes to acceptance. So we have to be careful and work through education.
That makes sense, thank you.
Ever tell you guys the story of the track athlete that had a duplicator for his ID? So, bought a duplicator so you could create a barcode, make a fake ID. And he sold his ID, he sold a card with a mag strip. This was before the chips were on, with the mag strip. Sold it to 3 other track athletes. So, we track, even though you have an unlimited meal plan, I put a bucket in there. So I put like 2,000 meals on your account for each semester. You don't go through it, but I put 2,000 on there. And then every once in a while, every couple of weeks, we'll run a report to see like anything standing out. We have any like really high-end users. And there was this one ID that kept like outrageous amount of meals in the first month of the semester. And so then I pull up the transaction data. And I pull up the student, realize it's on the track team, pull up the transaction data, and I see 1201 Gelfenbein, 1209 South, 1211 McMahon. Now my sarcasm is, if you're that fast, you're gold medal fast, right? So we couldn't figure out what was going on. Figured maybe one card office screwed up and we got a barcode that got remade a couple times and issued to 3 different students. No, turns out he made a fake ID with the barcode and sold this meal plan 3 times. And these kids were just dumb enough that they were tapping within 3 minutes of themselves in 3 different locations on campus. So that was a mess. So we've had stuff. That's why I get nervous of like, not actually, like when we say it's your ID and it's your meal plan, that's why. It hasn't happened very often. But we've had, you know, it's one thing if I give you my ID, that happens once in a while. You know, we don't like that. Most people don't like the kid eating the apple when they had a clue today that was happening, but that's, you know, here or there. But we just don't want that to happen.
What was the punishment?
What was the punishment? That was the police involvement. That was messy. Yeah, you don't want to, that was messy. Listen, there's been some, I mean, we've had some incidents over the years. You all had the incident that happened at C2 Hall last year, where the fraternity kids came in and were making a TikTok, stood up on the table, yelling, "I have a gun," and they played through their phones sounds of gunfire. It was horrible. It was horrible for the students that were there in that moment. It was horrible for the staff. I mean, people laying on the ground, all because we had to do a rush event. That moment, stupid stuff happens. No, right? It's just, you hope common sense prevails in most of these situations. To you, was you?
You lived in my building. I watched you get taken out of handcuffs,
It was bad.
hoodie and everything.
It was bad. You think about it. I mean, I have colleagues that work at Brown. I knew some of the folks at Virginia Tech, and none of us wanted to go through any of that. None of us. And to prank it, just ridiculous. You back?
I'm back. Smith for the minutes again. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember last year there was a discussion about the Buckley Dining Hall and how you're going to use that space for extra revenues. Can you talk about any on that?
Yeah, so we got the first estimate. I had put aside a couple $1 million to sort of deal with that. The quotes came in at 6. So that's on pause. It's just $2 million to $6 million, not a thing. Right now it's still full open space for studying. I am no longer managing the door. Honors has taken ownership of that space. It was very highly used during study time in December. I think it'll probably be just as popular. You've all lost a lot. I mean, whoever lives on campus in traditional housing, you've lost a lot of study spaces. And so having a space of that size is somewhat helpful. But yeah, listen, new revenue is still on my constant list. One thing that's changed since when I was here last year, I've taken, my department now oversees university events and conference services. So the Waterbury ribbon cutting that they did for the Waterbury Hospital when UConn took it, that's now under my area. Commencement now under my area. So we've taken that whole unit in. It's about 14 people, and it's hundreds of events. They want that space back. We just need to figure out where the money would come from to renovate to a small conferencing space. But summer conferencing is big right now. We're working on our summer conferencing model. We're really well booked for this summer. We've already got an inquiries for 2027. These are things that happen when you're not here in the summer. We will do a few, over probably $5 million in summer conference monies. That's an area I'm chasing. The hurdles with some of that, whoever's been here in the summer knows that it feels different, much different. The vibrancy is the word I would use. The vibrancy on campus in the summers, this building closes at like 3, 4 o'clock. There's nothing to do at night. That's also a challenge when you're trying to host conferences. You bring 300 guests in from somewhere in the country and you're like, welcome to Stores. And oh, by the way, at 3:30, go to the dairy bar because there's nothing else to do. Like, that's a problem. And so that's what my office has been charged with in terms of looking at new revenue opportunities for the institution. That's it. That wasn't bad at all. I feel like you just sat there waiting to make something up. No?
I have some positive feedback for you. So, I love pancakes. I'm going to start with that. The average pancakes on campus, the buttermilk or the normal ones, not that great. Bisquick and Ajman are both better. But whatever you guys put in those plant-based pancakes, I'm going to plug those for everyone. Maybe because it has to be vegan.
Where have you been getting them?
Whitney. They do a great job. Maybe it's because the standard of ingredients has to be higher for it to be vegan, but you guys do a great job. Those are good.
Hear this?
I'm a fan of this one.
Propaganda. No.
I'm not being paid for this.
I don't know the recipe at all. Half and half.
Okay, still like happening, but why aren't students able to do like to-go boxes inside of the dining hall?
You can do to-go boxes, you just have to request and have a need or a reason.
Okay.
So if you go on our website, there's a section for requesting a to-go container. Any student that's in our dietary program automatically qualifies. Internships, jobs, class conflicts, any of that stuff qualifies. We just ask that you fill it out and send it to me. I've never rejected one.
Okay, but like you have to have a reason. So like the average student just can't be like.
Correct, the average student cannot. Right? It's, part of it is ordering, trying to be accurate. If you come in, eat, grab a to-go container to go, you double consumption, we're way off. I know it sounds a lot, and like you can't figure that out, but that's really, it's always been all you can eat while you're in, and we do allow it to go, but there are reasons why we allow it to go. And then we also, retail was really built as the meal plan's built in a lot of ways, right? So I'll have students say like, I don't like what's at McMahon on the menu, so I always have to go to retail. Well, the meal plan's built to maintain flexibility for you. I know every student's like, I gotta use every flex pass, I have to use every point, and I wanna go to the dining halls, many times I possibly want to. The whole idea of you being able to use flex passes out in the wild, and the whole idea of you being able to use points in retail and go to the dining hall as many times as you want is, I don't know what flexibility means to you. But you may not want to go to the dining hall, sit down and eat breakfast, lunch, dinner every day. Like breakfast, you might wake up 15 minutes before you got to be on the other side of campus, and the best you're going to do is grab a coffee and a bagel at the beanery so you can make it to our home. That's okay with me, because that's what the meal plan is supposed to afford you, is that type of flexibility. You decide how you want to use it. Don't look at each category like I have to deplete them. I just want you to have the flexibility to eat in our facilities, however that works for your schedule. And if we're part of, there's a conflict where you have to go from 10:30 in the morning until 2:30, and you need a to-go container, I'm gonna let you have a to-go container, because you can't make it there. That's absolutely fine with me. Some students, like, they've got clinical rotations. They leave campus at 3:30, but they're on a meal plan. I want them to, when they leave at 3:30, they can leave with a to-go container so they've got something to eat when they get to their rotation. Kids have jobs. You work at the mall, you work in Manchester. Same thing, you work some 4 to 7 shift, you're not gonna make it to dinner. Let us get you the food in a to-go container before you head out. You paid for this meal plan. Don't go work at the Eastbrook Mall and feel like you gotta eat the food court every night. Like, that's all there. It's just, I tell people this all the time. You're not one of the top 5 websites you're going to check out when you come to UConn. We're not one of the top 5 social media accounts that we're going to come to. But whenever you have questions about, can I still get a to-go container? How does the flex pass work? It's all on that website. It's just, you got to dig it out a little bit.
Hi, so you mentioned earlier a little bit how helping students with eating disorders is a little difficult. I didn't know if there's a plan such as working with Shaw Mental Health as well as for other mental illnesses some students might struggle.
Yep, so we work with CSD, we work with Shaw. I also work with the Rudd Center quite a bit, especially at eating disorders, we work with the Rudd Center quite a bit. We work directly with physicians if necessary. A lot of it's what the student's willing to share and provide, and whether they want to give us clinical access. What we do know is that the students that we see today hit on exactly the U.S. population for food allergies. 10% of the U.S. population identifies as having food allergy, food sensitivity. Based on the health assessment records that are submitted when all students come here, we're right at that 10% here. What the data doesn't show, what we don't get in those assessments is that from a accountability standpoint, in terms of students having multiple issues, so it's not just that I can't have tree nuts, I also have a sensory issue. I have a social anxiety, so that large crowds, I can't eat in front of them. So that's not going to pop on that health assessment record necessarily. What may happen is when the referral comes from CSD, or the referral comes from Shaw, or the referral on an eating disorder comes from the Rudd Center, it comes with more explicit instructions of what we need to consider as an accommodation. Accommodation in that case, if a student has multiple issues, mental health, sensory issues, ADHD, high functioning Asperger's, anything like that, and then you add in a food allergy, my team first is going to go like, okay, I can handle the food allergy piece. And then the dining hall manager is going back and forth in an email with the students, one question at a time. And it's taking them 20 minutes. I ask them 5 questions, they only answer one thing at a time. And then they tell me they can't eat in the dining hall. Yeah. And you're constantly talking to your team like, stop being so hyper-focused on the tree nuts and understand that students have a multitude of challenges. And this student has a social anxiety. And you don't even know if medication has been effective, if they've taken it. So I'm trying to get my team to stop making assumptions, treat every student as best they can the same, hold the same expectations and standards, but also like have a little empathy for the situation here and understand that you may not be able to eat in the dining hall. And it has nothing to do with your food allergy. It literally has to do with you don't do well with 300 people around you. Just like you wouldn't do well taking an exam in a lecture hall with those same 300 people. You have to have an accommodation for that. So we work with a variety of places, a variety of resources. Having a clinical dietitian on staff has helped tremendously for us. Instead of Mike and Rob out doing it, which is all it used to be for years, Lily's been fantastic. She sends a monthly email to every single student that we work in to just check on them. We hear back from 5%, but we're constantly pushing, are you doing okay? Are we meeting your needs? What else can we do? I'm comfortable with how we're doing. I'm never satisfied. That makes sense?
Yeah, I think one recommendation is maybe working with Shaw as well. If they get students with, even if it's not directly an eating disorder, having them recommend to students they're seeing, like, did you know this isn't an option? Because a lot of times I don't think students know that even is a solution to part of their problems.
I work with Tina McCarthy a lot, who's in charge of the whole nurse squad. I have no problem talking to them as a reminder. We've done a lot with them over the years. Their dietitian, Amy Donovan, and my team have worked very closely together. I know Suzanne very well, so I have no problem. I typically go there once a year and present what we do. And I can certainly reinforce that, so I appreciate that.
I just want to say, like, I appreciate the detail that you guys are putting into the website. Like, I've been looking at it this entire time, and I just found out.
First time ever, right?
No, I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
you guys have the distance
We
to
did that. We had to do that.
Really?
So we literally, Lily, our dietitian, got tired of students going like, I can't make it from here to here in time to eat. So Lily went out and walked from place to place, and that's the journey map of how to get from one place to the other and how long it should technically take you.
It tells you how many calories you burn.
And she's ridiculous. That's what she does. Lily's been, we fought for years to get a dietitian. And part of what my concern was always going to be is how do you justify the work? It can't just be about meeting with students. Now, obviously, some students need nutritional education. They're not prepared for it. You decide tomorrow that you want to be gluten-free. Or no, you want to be vegan, but you don't want to eat soy. Right? I went on the internet and it said soy is bad for me, but I want to be vegan tomorrow. Good luck. Well, I want to pair you up with a dietitian so that you're not surviving on Dr. Google and you're learning like what we would recommend. So Lily's work in an individual basis has been important. But you'll also see Lily, she'll table at dining hall, she'll talk about different things you can do. She's working on education. She came up with that whole thing on her own. So I'm very pleased with the fact that she is not willing to just sit there and wait for a student to come forward and say, I have Hashimoto's disease and I need help. You're welcome. Lesson is go to the website, it's pretty cool. Oh, look at you on it now too. Look at that. Yeah, look at that. Roadmap of hell. Looks like a dome.
Any other questions?
Like,
What I mean, you got obviously something good going on.
No, so I left my phone charging in the office, and I left my case there too. So yeah, of course I want to hear your voice. Come on, do you think I'll play something over that?
Ears are cold. What do you got?
So again, as you know, we've met plenty of times, but again, in my committee, we talk about food insecurity, and one of the first questions every semester that I get asked and that I have to kind of talk about is, why can't we expand the dining hall hours? And obviously this is something we've talked about, so I just want to give you the opportunity to explain something that we know but an average student might not be aware of as why that is a logistical thing, and of course it's something that we would want, but it's, a lot of logistics.
So I will recognize that the eating behaviors of the current group of students, very similar to the last few years. You all tend to start your day later, which means you study later on to the back end. I acknowledge that. But we also have a lot of students that still, almost 40 to 50%, right now we're about 45% of all meal plan participants are still going to breakfast. So that means we have about 7,000 students still going to breakfast. On the late night side, we have 3,000 people participating in late night, which runs just in the Northwest and South Quad from 7:15 to 10. There's a balance to this, right? The retail space is supposed to help offset some of that with the 9 p.m. The two grab-and-goes are supposed to help. Those are geographically spread out. They're open until 10 p.m. It's sort of spread out purposely the way it is. In terms of staffing is always going to be a struggle in our industry. We're not where we were coming out of the pandemic. That was a nightmare. Where we were before the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic, much different. We're back to over 1,000 students working for dining, which puts us back in the #1 slot for most student staff. We still have 25 full-time vacancies. We still have over 20 call-outs a day. And we probably have a good 60 people on FMLA, intermittently or long-term. So when I go into it, like I went to North today, you can feel that they're struggling with a couple chefs missing. Adding a late night adds another entire shift to a location. That happens to be a premium shift that we do. We do pay people more to work after 2:30 p.m. It's difficult to staff it. It doesn't mean that I'm completely removed from the idea that we shouldn't look at it on a consistent basis. I would love it if this building would push it a little bit more. I don't control the building. Going downstairs tonight, cutting through the lobby at probably about 6 o'clock, pretty good. I don't know what it looks like at 9 o'clock anymore downstairs. My guess is it's pretty quiet. We all typically base our hours around what we're seeing for foot traffic. I am working on a couple of things that I didn't talk about because I don't know if they're going to work. I don't want to get everybody's hopes up because it may not happen, but we've been recently having longer, deeper conversations about where can you use points. Now, I'm going to just leave it at this for now. I don't want legislation. Dining points right now work in dining. Imagine if they worked in other places. Okay? So, some of this may solve itself if we're successful in the things that I'm exploring. I'm going to know there's a good possibility that we will tiptoe into some of this for the fall. But if you leave that out of the notes and delete this section off the camera and all that other stuff, I wouldn't be disappointed. But I am seriously looking at if we could find a pathway where points could actually be used outside of our dining portfolio. What has to happen is the model's based on you're going to run out of points if I open this thing up. Imagine if you could go somewhere, downtown stores, use your points, not for alcohol, but you could go somewhere, and you run out faster. What does that mean for you? If you buy more, So I need to understand, A, would we require a vendor a participation rate? Could I get a percentage of that back? And what would it drive in new sales? That's all on my desk right now. And determining how all that would look, what a participation rate may be for a vendor, what the return to dining would be, will all factor in whether this is a feasible move for us or a complete financial disaster for us. Right, so think about it this way. If you buy a meal plan and you get 500 points, and you don't use them, you use them all at Dunkin'. How does Dunkin' get that $500? Who gives it to them? I do, right? So imagine if every single point, there's 2 million points are put on meal plans to start the fall semester. Imagine if all 2 million, this wouldn't happen, I get it. Imagine if all 2 million went to Dunkin'. That means the dining portfolio, all that staff we have, all the people we've put in place to support all of that would have to get revisited. So I'm looking at it very carefully with a lot of different measurements. But I'm also hopeful that there's a pathway to fix some of this. Because look, I don't want Bears to go out of business. But if you stand there every single day and look at the number of people at Bears, they're going to go out of business. Right? I mean, just look at it. And then what happens? They go away. I'll get a phone call a week later. Hey, can you fill that again? Great, sure. What do you want? Barbecue? No. But my goal is to give you all more flexibility, but not do it in such a way that somebody's like, wow, dining's doing so poorly, we should privatize it. We don't want that. So there's just a very difficult balance. So when I talk about always thinking about ways that can get you all food at the weird hours you want it, that may be a pathway to help. I wasn't going to talk about that, so.
Sorry, just to add on to that, actually, I think my only concern is like when talking about getting food at late hours, I noticed that during weeknights, most of the places downtown besides like DP Dough do actually close at 9.
Listen, I'm not going to fix that whole problem. Look, I think, again, it's the same. They're probably providing a similar answer. Right? If I owned a business downtown, first of all, you have to make all your money in 37 weeks out of the year. You just have to. Like we're back to that vibrancy thing in the summer. Right? You just have to. I would base my hours on what my foot traffic is. It's what every restaurant in the world does. Personally, downtown stores was built backwards. Go to Evergreen in Manchester. Who's been to Evergreen Walk in Manchester? Anyway, okay. What do you notice about Evergreen that's different than downtown here? There's like 3 places to eat and 50 places to shop. You go downtown stores, there's 50 places to eat, 3 places to shop. How many places can you go eat? This is like a rhyme. Like, how many places can you go eat in a given week downtown? Like, you're just not going to. So it's built backwards, right? I think even when I was here for when the design was going, like, oh, all this wonderful shopping, and yeah, no, that's not what it became. It's gotten so bad that the town of Mansfield has actually put a moratorium in place that no more hoods can be installed inside of buildings to open up more food places. So they've basically said, we're kind of at the breaking point here. There's not enough shopping down here. Which means they're all competing. Look, the owners of Nautical Bowls, great people, terrible location, right? Buried in the back, great product, awesome, cool little cute store. The colors were made. Like, I love the inside of that place. And then Playa comes and lands on the main road, and they took that sign that sealed their fate. That's a town planner problem. Like, you're literally signing a lease with Playa, knowing they're going to bury this small mom and pop in the back of the place. It's capitalism to its greatest thing. Yeah, I think they're probably basing their hours on what they're seeing for foot traffic. I mean, look, it's no different. Why did Square Peg decide to become the nightclub of downtown stores because they said, hey, look, nobody's coming in here after 9 o'clock, right? So at 9 o'clock, everybody moved the tables and chairs out, and we're gonna turn this place into a zoo. And that's what they've done, right? And so, is it working? Who's betting? Who's betting? Okay, you go to everything. So like, it's working. They've changed their business model. I think, you know, Nautical Bowls wasn't when they get 5 people in if they wanted to have a karaoke night. It was about the best they could do. I just think it's really tough. And I think it's tough for Bears. Subway's figured it out. They have a national name brand that just draws, Dunkin', forget it. They don't need anything. Right? They just have name recognition that has made its way across the United States. It takes a while, but they are just a national brand now. And you can survive on that. But some of these other folks just can't.
Okay, so another question. Usually at the end of semesters or end of the year when people are running out of their flex passes and they have to get rid of them, has there ever been a consideration for a program? Because usually people will just go and buy a bunch of chips or drinks or offer them to people. Has there ever been an idea to have a program where you can donate those flex passes?
Yeah, we used to do that. We used to do give a meal. And here's what happened. So we would do a thing where you could donate a flex pass and it would go to the Student First Fund. And you would donate it, we would track it, we would put a value to it. So we get 5,000 donations, we put a value to it. I would take that money, let's say it's $10,000, and I would move that money to the foundation. It would sit in the foundation account. And then Dean of Student's office would say, I'm gonna buy you, you come as a student in need. You've gone through whatever criteria they have, and we're gonna give you a block of 25 meals. Mike, can you put a block of 25 meals on the student's account? Yep. In order to pay for that, I take the money back out of the foundation, and I put it back in dining services. And so, this is getting ridiculous. We're just, and it's administrative. I literally have to have somebody sit there and do these DV transfers. So what I did is I called the Dean of Students office 3 years ago and I said, look, we've been averaging $10,000 a year in donated, so here's what you're gonna do. From now on, in your mind, you have $10,000 on a piece of paper. And you rip that down to zero by the end of the year, and you just tell me when the student needs the meal plan, I'm gonna put a gratis meal plan on there, and I'm just not gonna move the money back and forth anymore. The donation was simply moving dining money back and forth, allowing students, it's gonna sound terrible, it allowed you a feel-good moment, like you were doing something really cool. Administratively, it was tedious. And so, we still do exactly what we were doing. Maureen and I just do it all behind the scenes now, without the donation. From like feeling like we weren't gonna have a single question, Kyle. Is there anything else on the agenda?
A lot.
You guys are struggling here. Oh, we ran out of battery? Do we run out of battery?
Free.
Use your outside voice.
Yeah, I do that. Anyways, I was gonna add on that question. Maybe, like, perhaps a system where students can like interchange, like send each other passes, like flex passes went out, be put in place.
You know where that is?
It's so bad. Like,
You know where that is?
Wanna, like,
That does exist.
what?
It's on Reddit. It is literally on Reddit.
Wait, so I can just give my friend like flex passes?
I will tell you that on Reddit, you could go on there, I don't know where it is now, and it will say, do you want to be swiped into McMahon? And for like, it was like a $5 exchange, and kids would literally flex you into McMahon. That was a lot, and I've never bothered policing it, but that does exist.
No,
You want it to be more
about
like
like,
a real friendly thing that goes on.
I'm talking about like at the end of the year, I'll have like 40.
So yeah, I mean, just send an email. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do with your meal plan. But if you want me to put it in a bucket and then distribute it to somebody, no way. Too much work, honestly. Like, it's just the amount of it, like, I'd move 4 meals off of you, I wouldn't know who to put them on. I'd put them on there, I'd have to put a start date and end date, it would be just sitting there. Whereas what I would literally tell you is, if you know you've got 3 or 4 friends that live off campus and you want to flex them in, flex them in. Like, don't be afraid, take them, burn your points down. You can do anything you want with it. I don't sit here, I'll never criticize you unless you duplicate your ID 3 times and sell a meal plan. Like, that's where I get a little bit worried. But if you flex in 20 kids, I don't care. That's the whole point, right? I would never, I don't think I would support a formal, organized effort by USG, like if you all felt like that was the way to, I don't think that's what this stuff's really intended to do, but if you are part of a committee that's working on some of this stuff and you've got a bunch of students that are like, look, I'm gonna have 15 flex. We did this with the trip to Hartford, right? So we didn't want you to have to spend, like I needed to cover the cost of the food that we were gonna send to the legislature for the students that were on the bus, right? And so all I said is, here's what I'm gonna do. If a student has a meal plan, I'm gonna take a meal off. That covers 1 box meal. And then ask the kids on that list, hey, are you willing to use a flex pass for some other student in USG to get one of those box meals? And so people donate it. Hillel does this all the time. So to participate in the Friday, Saturday Shabbat at Hillel House, they actually collect a PeopleSoft number, and they know like you're willing to give 3 flex passes to another kosher student who doesn't have a meal plan so they can participate in the Friday night program. We do it in athletics all the time with some of the teams, right? So they order box meals for the men's hockey team, 3 players have meal plans, 7 don't. Next thing I know, I've got 3 of the hockey players saying, we got enough flex passes to cover it, doesn't come out of the budget. Now they probably have the budget to do it, but it happens a lot more organically than sort of in this organized fashion.
Thank you so much.
That was good.
Any last questions? Right?
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
We are going to skip verbal reports for the sake of time. If you want to hear anyone's report, next time after the meeting. We'll move right into our voting items. First up is the approval of the minutes from the 11th. If anyone has any questions or points of discussion relating to the minutes? Seeing none, I will move to approve them by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Minutes are approved. Next up, Alyssa and I are going to switch places for a minute.
Hi, everyone. Okay, our next voting item is a statement of position regarding community meal plan swipes being accepted as payment for value meals. And I'll pull it up here and pass it off to Kyle.
All right, thank you, everyone. So that we still have right here for this. So as you all know, I stood up here 2 weeks ago and presented legislation calling on dining services to change community meal swipes into flex passes. I did that because I wanted them to be able to be used for value meals in retail locations like flex passes are. And we got that. I have to tell you, I have done this for 4 years. I have never seen an administrator respond so promptly to legislation. So this is a piece to say that we consider dining services solution of allowing them to be used as payment to have satisfied the previous legislation, even though they are not technically flex passes. So kind of a semantic thing on that end. And also that we appreciate dining services for their partnership and prompt response. Thank you.
Any questions? Any points of discussion?
You just say 300 names, Kyle. Thank you.
All right, I will move this into a hand vote. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, this passes 13-0-0. Congratulations.
All right, that is our last voting item of the night, guys. For announcements, Orientation caucus next week for new senators. So for those of you in this room continuing on, you're more than welcome to join us. But also feel free to take the week off since you know the drill. First last Senate is in 2 weeks from now, Wednesday, April 8th. If you are interested in running to be speaker, you can fill out the intent to run. That is due Sunday, the 5th. Happy to talk to anyone about the position, about the process. That will take you to the role. I also sent that out over email and Slack. We have a couple of openings on our judiciary, and the deadline to apply is the 13th. There are 4 openings. So if you're interested in being a justice, consider applying. There will also be the pay rules of Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice selected within the judiciary after that application. So if you're interested in either of those, fill this out. One thing to note is you cannot simultaneously be both a senator and a justice. So if you're interested in the differences, please talk to Ellen. And then executive branch openings, keep an eye out for that. Haven't gone up yet, right?
Those should go up on Monday.
Those should go up on Monday, everyone. Teresa?
Banquet, April 11th, please be there. On Saturday, for all the RSVP. I ordered the food. I made some vegan pasta and chicken parm. So,
Awesome. Any final announcements? Okay, seeing none, thank you all for a great discussion tonight. Thank you all for being here. Grab some peace on your way out. Call the closed session. Okay.